Champs over Chumps GMs. This your commissioner, man. Back with another video. Over the past few weeks, we've had a couple disagreements on how to properly rank the teams in our league. And I gotta admit, man, there's really no easy way to do it. So you take a look at my playbook and they got the rankings set up like this. But if you ask me, these look more like projections than rankings to me. I took a look at fantasy football guys and they got the rankings looking like this. But when I go down the list, I don't know if I can believe that either. See, really it's kind of hard to determine who's the best team when you've only played 5 weeks of football. So, the Echelon Hierarchy, we're going to take a different approach. Rather than trying to determine who's the best team and who's the worst team, and so on and so forth, we're going to break up the teams into tiers based off not what you could do for the rest of the season, but what you've done thus far. How many wins and losses you have, and how many points you're scoring. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So let's jump into these tiers real quickly now, okay? We're going to start with tier 4. Now, tier 4 is going to be titled, "It May Not Look Like It, but My Team is Better Than It Appears." Okay? Now, 6 teams have been grouped in this tier, and all 6 teams have something in common. 1, they've all only won 1 or 2 games thus far in the season. And 2, none of them appear to be in the race for the most points scored. Now, that's okay because that's not what's important. What is important is that when you look at these 6 teams and their rosters, they all have some top-end talent somewhere on their roster, meaning they all have something they can work with. Now, all 6 of these teams are not currently in the playoff mix, but they still have an opportunity with so many weeks left in the season. My suggestion to the 6 teams on this tier is to 1, manage that waiver wire as hard as you can and make some timely moves. Look for a couple trades here or there to upgrade your roster and make sure as a GM you're putting the right people in the game at the proper times. With doing all of those things, I think that any one of the teams in this tier still has a chance to make it to the top. Tier 3. Now, tier 3, we're going to title, "Not the start we wanted, but everything is going to be all right." Okay? Now, the 2 teams that make up tier 3 currently sit at 3 and 2. It's not the best start, but it's definitely not the worst either. If you pay attention, both of these teams in this tier were the teams that made up the championship game last year, and that tells me a lot. That tells me that neither one of these GMs is really worried about the slow start to the season, because there's no such thing as a perfect fantasy football season. I know that moving forward, both of these GMs are going to still hit that waiver wire and make the timely moves to improve their roster, and by the time the end of the season comes around, both of these teams will probably still be in the playoff push. Tier 2. Now, as we get into tier 2, we start to get to the upper echelon of the Echelon Hierarchy. And we're going to title it, "If It Wasn't for That One Game." Now, all the teams that make up this tier have a respectable 4-1 record to start the season. And they're all among the leaders in points scored throughout the first 5 weeks. The only thing keeping them from that top tier is that one Sunday where they came up just a bit short. Now, regardless of what you think of their rosters, they've all displayed the ability to put up big numbers on any given Sunday. And if you run into one of these teams and the projections say you should come out on top, don't fall for the trap. Because in the words of a wise man, projections are only hopes. And the 3 teams that make up this tier come to play week in and week out. I highly expect one, if not all of the teams in this tier to have a strong say-so in determining this year's playoff seeding and possibly even who wins the chip. And finally, we get to the top of the tiers. So we get to tier 1 now. Tier 1 we're going to call the perfect start that could lead to a perfect finish. Okay, now only one team makes up this tier, and it's simply due to the way they've started the season. Am I saying this is the best team in the league? Absolutely not. But it's hard to imagine a better start than a perfect sweep of their division while leading the whole league in points scored, right? I mean, upper end quarterback, check. Playmaking running backs, check. Top scoring defense, check. I mean, this team has what it takes to compete on a week-to-week basis. Now, although I don't anticipate an undefeated season, there should be no argument that in its current state, This is a team deserving its Tier 1 status, and this is a team that all other teams should be measured against in Champs Over Chumps. Of course, there's always somebody that won't agree with the tiered ranking system. But the fact of the matter is, this is how the league is shaped up after the first 5 weeks of competition. Week 6 begins the non-divisional portion of our schedules, so the Echelon Hierarchy will return after week 11. In the meantime, we all got work to do. And as the commissioner, I wish every squad the best of luck the rest of the way. Until next time, this your commissioner, man, signing off.